Hello, tiny people. Here we go again with another extremely important lesson through the year. That would be the lesson of rights. Now, you heard me talk so many times about the development of English rights and then American rights. I need to go over that one more time to make sure you truly understand this. Sometimes there's a confusion here. As a matter of fact, you will hear people use propaganda who will outright lie to you. And someone who's looking for a privilege may call it a right. A right is something to which a person is morally or legally entitled. That means it belongs to you. You have every correct, you're completely correct in using this anytime you want. Privileges, on the other hand, require someone's permission. So let's just take this up. Suppose after dinner tonight, you're thinking a nice cigar would be good. So you kick back, light up. That's not going to happen because if you're going to smoke a cigar, I think you're going to need mom and dad's permission. Hey, good luck with that. When you get to be an adult, you will have the right to vote, among other things. And that means if someone tries to stop you from voting, you can call the police. You can get large people with large guns come to help you to make sure that you get to exercise your right. Okay, here it comes. Last time for the year. I want each one of you to lean forward and put your head right there on the computer. I'm reaching out to all of you now. Oh, ding. The divine right of kings. This is the European idea of government from back at that time. They said that God gave to one individual, the monarch, the king, in some cases the queen, but usually the king, was given all power. Now that means everything. And if you look at the diagram on the right, you'll notice that the arrow coming from God to the king, boom, this belongs to the king. It's ordained by God that he has this power. If you argue with the king, that's like arguing with God. That's incredible power. But the arrow on the bottom goes in both directions because the king had all the rights and he could give or take anything from anyone. Therefore, the only thing anyone else had was a privilege granted by the king. People weren't happy with that. The American system of government is different. It wasn't based on the idea of the divine right of kings, it was based on the idea of natural rights. Well, let's start off with what's a state of nature. Suppose that the world has just been created, we're all running around naked in the woods, and there is no government. Well, it's pretty clear that people already have some things. Look at the diagram on the right. God gave to each and every human being certain things. Let's figure out what that is. There's no government in a state of nature, yet a person is alive. Therefore, life was given not by government, but by God. People have liberty. There's no government restricting them in any way. They can do whatever they want to. If you want to climb up a tree and jump off, feel free. If you want to roll in the grass, feel free. People also have property. What do I mean by that? I mean that God put us into a world where there was fruit and animals and leaves for these gentlemen to use as skirts in the primitive way. The last thing over there in the diagram is that people understand that what happens if person A wants to just kill person B? But person B is supposed to have this right to life given him by God. There needs to be a protection for life, for liberty, for property. And so people can give up a part of their rights in exchange for the protection of laws. And that is the way Americans believe government was formed. And it says, deriving its just power from the consent of the governed. Magna Carta, that's where it all began in Britain. You see the picture on the left, that's King John signing in what year? What year? Huh? Huh? Right, 1215. All right, King John signing the Magna Carta, the Great Charter. It gave rights to English nobles for the first time. The English nobles had said, we are so tired of having this king give and then take from us. We want some things which are not his to take back. We want some things permanently. We want rights. And so they took King John to the Isle of Runnymede and made him sign the Magna Carta, which forever limited the power of English kings and gave the nobles, and only the nobles, the rich people that owned land, certain rights. Then you'll see over on the right, William and Mary, and they signed the English Bill of Rights, which extended those Magna Carta rights, it was about 400 years later, to all English people. And please notice I looked very hard to see if I could come up with their wedding picture when he was 12 and she was 9. I couldn't find it on the internet. So I simply took this one where William and Mary had borrowed clothes from Aaron and Molly for this picture. And I think Aaron and Molly would look just lovely in those. When the Americans wrote the Constitution, they quickly put on a Bill of Rights. Remember, the word bill in this case simply means a list of rights. And the most important thing you need to remember is that these rights were given to you by God, not the government. That's huge. That was the natural rights philosophy that the framers of the Constitution wholeheartedly believed. They already had rights. They weren't given by the government. And what the Bill of Rights did was it said, hey, government, you may not interfere with certain rights. And these were the rights that they preserved for themselves. Now, I can already see that 6 or 8 of you are going to clutch your chests and fall over dead because you're thinking, I have to memorize this before I can go take the quiz. I have to write it down. I'm not going to ask you that. That's not what these little quick quizzes for. I'm just running through some of these things. These are the amendments, the 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. And I want to point something out about that First Amendment that I'm not sure most people know. And that is that the framers of the Constitution wrote the First Amendment for the most important rights in their minds, and they put them in order of what was most important to them. So the very first right reserved in the American Bill of Rights is the right to freedom of religion. Then freedom of speech, freedom of the press, peaceable assembly, and petitioning the government. Again, the purpose of the Bill of Rights is to protect individuals from the government. People misuse the term freedom of speech all the time. If I want to say something nasty to Mr. Urbanski, if I do, I'm rude, I'm crude, I'm socially unacceptable, I'm a nasty person, but I have not done anything that has anything to do with freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is to protect individuals from the government so that if I say something about a president, a senator, a congressman, a governor, the police won't show up on my door and stop me. That's what freedom of speech is all about. They wanted people in this new country to be able to exchange ideas. And if they didn't like the current leadership, which had been elected, they wanted people to have the right to speak out against them. Second Amendment, to keep and bear arms. Remember, they'd just gone through a revolution. They wanted to be able to protect themselves, and they wanted their posterity, their following generations to also. From quartering soldiers, one of the intolerable acts, to put soldiers right into people's houses against their will. They hated that. From unreasonable search and seizure, there has to be a real reason for the government to enter your house, your business, your car. The Fifth Amendment, to have a grand jury so that before they put someone through a really big and expensive and time-consuming and frightening trial, they will present a case on a major crime to a grand jury to say, is this enough evidence to actually arrest the person and go to trial? Due process of law means there's going to be a trial The government can't just throw you in jail. You have private property, and you can decide, people can decide what's done with it. And it protects folks from double jeopardy, from continually being, or more than once being, accused of the same crime and brought back to trial. The Sixth Amendment says that someone accused of a crime gets a speedy trial. The government can't drag it out and leave them in jail for years waiting a trial. That they have the right to counsel, a lawyer, someone with the knowledge of the law. Habeas corpus. Oh, anybody remember what it is? I will be impressed. You have to shout it out really loud because I live about 40 miles from all of you. Okay. Habeas corpus would be a person is told what they have been charged with, what crime they are accused of. And sometimes people need witnesses in their behalf. A subpoena, remember, is a document that orders a person to come to trial, to speak for you. The Seventh Amendment, if there's a large amount of money involved in a suit that's not a criminal suit, but some damages, there can be a jury trial. The Eighth Amendment, someone can't be thrown in jail and a ridiculous amount of jail posted. We want people to be out and help with their own defense, and we don't allow cruel and unusual punishment. I'm almost done with my sentence. It's been, what, about 35, 36 years in seventh grade. I don't think that's constitutional. No, actually, I love it. All right, rights not listed are still owned. Just because they didn't list them here doesn't mean they don't exist. And the 10th Amendment said, if the framers of this Constitution, the people, have not specifically given powers to the federal government, then the federal government doesn't have it. It belongs to the states or the people. Again, you don't have to memorize all this. I'm not going to ask you that kind of stuff on the quiz. I want big, broad, general things, folks. These are your rights, and they came from God, not the government. You are entitled to them morally, and you are entitled to them legally. Guys, one of the big lessons from the year, if you don't remember much of anything else, I told you natural rights was so important. That's where you got your rights. You need to guard them. That's part of the purpose of getting an education, is to understand what belongs to you, to what you are entitled, and to be able to form an argument to defend those rights, your property. All right, tiny people, I love you. I miss you. And I sure wish we could have finished the year together, because I definitely would have squirted you some more with my seventh grade discipline juice. Hasta la vista, babies. Quiz coming up.